Hey everyone, this is the Black Manga Critic here with a review of Dr. Stone, Chapter 28. Now, basically, this is another, good chapter in the way that the mangaka like sort of does the emotional sort of like heartstring sort of thing. I love that. I like one of the reasons I think why people let's say like if people are like comics over manga or manga over comics is that, and at least like for me like one of the reasons why I think people come to manga particularly is because manga like manga do a great job of like making keeping emotion at the forefront of their works. Like there is there are a lot of comics out there that like aren't particularly emotional, and they're very much so like sort of like like a little too philosophical, like in their Western like philosophies like sort of sense, right? Like they're all about like trying to convey a particular point or teaching a lesson or understanding how like certain things work and things of that nature. And sometimes the emotion of particular narratives don't do very much, but manga tends to have that in spades, right? And like Dr. Stone is a manga that I think has that in spades. Like this is another chapter, right, where we see Suika, right? Like Suika's just like, fucking adorable, right? Like she's just an adorable girl who is, who's nearsighted. And like this is the sort of thing that like, if we were just reading this in like let's say a slice of life manga, it'd be like a sort of like, comedic like gag or something like that, right? Where it's like, haha, this nearsighted, maybe they trip on a banana or something like that. You know what I mean? Something like ridiculous like that. But in this one, we have a little bit, we have like a little bit of that, a little bit of comedy, but mostly it's like, she's dealt with this, probably since like birth, I think, and also the fact that like in this world before Senku woke up, like they didn't have any real way of like getting her vision to a place where she could see things in their sort of like entirety, right, in their aesthetic entirety, I guess, like in the sense that like she could see like the little like dots of like sunflowers on the sunflowers, and like see this cute dog, and you know what I mean, like see their faces in their aesthetic entirety, right? Like that's good stuff. I appreciate that. I appreciate that like the manga like takes the time to sort of sit with characters for a chapter, maybe two chapters, right, and develop them a bit in that way. Because like then, like when we move on, characters like Gen, right, we saw that in the last chapter. Characters like Suika, right, are particularly poignant and interesting and heartwarming in certain ways. And when they are involved in future narratives, that gives us more of a connection to them, so that we actually give a shit about them, right? And like one thing I also liked about the chapter is like and just generally Dr. Stone is that the art really pushes that. The art does like something I think that like not like manga do generally well, but like this manga does particularly well. They sort of focus on the sort of beauty and like the importance of particular objects and sort of the science behind those objects, right? In this chapter, the object is clearly glass, right? And the art is just beautiful, like the way that they like every time we see a bit of glass and we see the process of it, we see the sand, the silica sand, right, silica stone or silica sand, whatever you want to call it, right? Like all of that stuff, like it's always drawn really well. We always get like a really like what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of visceral sense of like those objects, like as we might feel them like in the real world or whatever, right? Like I appreciate that the art sort of conveys that, and it doubles the sort of like narrative emotional impact that we get from like Suika talking about particular things, and Senku talking about particular things, and Chrome talking about particular things, like stuff like that is really like good. So generally, I think like in terms of the chapter, I appreciate the emotional sort of quality of Dr. Stone and the emotional quality of this chapter, and I think this chapter does a really great job of showing why one reason why you should read Dr. Stone, and continue to read Dr. Stone, because I think that as this manga picks up, it's only going to get better. It's only going to get more emotional. It's only going to, like once more sort of people are revived, and we sort of have more, civilizations coming into fruition, right? Like things like that are going to be really interesting. So I guess the second thing I guess that I want to talk about is just like the general sort of like ways in which like again Dr. Stone is like clearly a manga that is not going away from its scientific roots, right? In the sense that like it's very much so a manga that's trying to teach. I think for me, like it's trying to teach its audience about science, right? This is something that like sports manga tend to do, right? Sports manga tend to sort of teach you about like basketball and soccer and football and tennis and volleyball, right? And they teach you about those things, and you really sort of learn about the sport. And like in a way, like maybe you didn't want to watch like tennis before Prince of Tennis or Baby Steps, something like that, but maybe now you want to watch Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic like play, or Serena Williams, or Angelique Kerber, or Sloane Stevens. You know what I mean? Like you want to watch these like tennis players play tennis. Same, with volleyball. Like I mean, I'm not there yet, but maybe like when the Olympics come along, yeah, I want to watch volleyball. But I'm just like basically, I'm just saying like even if you don't have a particular interest in those sports, prior to the manga, I think that like something like this, like something like this manga shows you just like how powerful, how impactful, right, like manga narratives are, right, like in the way that they're able to sort of foster like interest in particular subjects like or sports or whatever, right? So that's why I appreciate Dr. Stone, because like I didn't really know that like about like silica sand, or like the way that it was so important for glass making. So stuff like that is like really interesting, right? And like how everything that they've done so far and everything that they've sort of invented so far is all sort of connected in the way that like that yes, one invention can be used for one particular thing, but that invention can also like be used in a sort of tangential way for other instances, right? Like so in this case, the glass is really important, like right. In a general sense, because like they need it for like beakers and stuff like that, so that Senku and Chrome can continue to do like experiments and make things and store things and stuff like that. But in this chapter, the main importance is for Suika to gain like to better her vision. That's the whole fucking point of this chapter. Like the point of the chapter isn't like, oh, we figured out how to make glass, so now we can like move on. No, the point of this chapter was an emotional one, and I love that because I want to see more of that. Like I want to see more of that. I like it. I like emotion in my manga. Like, and in a general sense, like if manga doesn't have emotion in it, it's probably trash. So that's what I love about this chapter. The fact that like it showcases again that Dr. Stone is sort of very much so enmeshed in science. And that science is very much so not just like sort of stolid, like cold, heartless stuff, but it's like there's very much of an emotional sort of component to it, right? So again, this chapter was really good. Dr. Stone 28, good chapter. It wasn't like, whoa, this is mind blowing or anything like that, but it was a good top chapter. It was a solid chapter. I will say that I want to see the other two characters again. I keep forgetting their names because they haven't been around for so long, right? Like, but we need to see those two characters again, like main sort of like doofy guy and girl that doofy guy likes, right? Like that's what we need to we need to see. Tsukasa needs some more development. I've said that already. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. That was my review of Dr. Stone chapter 28. I'm the Black Manga Critic, and I'm out.